Okay, so if you were to travel to some of the most sun-scorched, arid landscapes in South Africa, you'd find something, well, something you really don't expect. Tucked away in the rocky ground are these little life forms that honestly look like they belong on another planet. Today, we're going to dive into the super strange world of these botanical aliens and solve what turned out to be a real case of mistaken identity.
Right, so picture a place that gets as little as 50 millimeters of rain a year. I mean, sometimes it doesn't rain at all for an entire year. And yet, wedged into these cracks, you find these things. They look way more like some kind of geologic formation than any plant you've ever seen.
And when you get up close, it just gets weirder. The surface is all scaly, papery, and almost totally white. There is basically nothing about this that screams plant. And that's the point. It's this perfect camouflage, designed to blend in and just avoid the attention of any hungry or thirsty animals wandering by.
But believe it or not, a plant it is. This is a member of the Anacampseros genus, and more specifically from a group called Avonia. These guys are true specialists. They've evolved this incredible, unique set of tools to survive in one of the absolute toughest environments on Earth. And how they do it, it's just brilliant.
So how in the world does a plant survive where pretty much nothing else can? Well, it all comes down to a few incredible adaptations. It's really a masterclass in minimalist design and maximum efficiency. The name of the game is holding on to every single last drop of moisture. The secret to their whole look is in these little white scales. They're actually modified leaves, and they're called stipules. They're papery, and they overlap, creating this amazing natural sunscreen that reflects the intense desert sun. This armor also traps a teeny tiny layer of humid air right around the stem, which drastically reduces water loss.
And you know, what you see above ground? That's only half the story. Down below the soil, these plants have what's called a caudex, basically a thick, tuberous taproot. Think of it as the plant's emergency generator and its water tank, all rolled into one. It stores enough water and nutrients to just wait out droughts that can last for years.
Then, out of this tough, armored little creature, something completely delicate and unexpected emerges. For just a few hours a day, a small, really beautiful flower will open up. Once it's pollinated, it produces this intricate little capsule, which holds a tiny number of seeds, sometimes as few as 15. Each one is like this precious little package, ready to start the whole cycle all over again.
But this story isn't just about survival. It's also a detective story. See, for a long time, botanists were pretty confused about these little plants. A proper name isn't just a label, right? It's kind of a hypothesis about a species' history and its relationship to everything else. And in this case, the names were causing a real problem.
So here's where all the confusion started. There were two groups of plants. You had one from near the town of Kuruman, which was named Avonia lavbleckiana. Then you had another one from about 130 kilometers away near Posmusburg that was so similar it was first called a subspecies, but later they declared it a completely separate species, Avonia confusa.
So this created a puzzle. You have two populations. Visually, they're almost identical, but they're classified as two totally distinct species. So the question is, did the tiny differences in the distance between them really justify splitting them up like that? Or is something else going on entirely?
Okay, take a look. On the left, we have the Kuruman form, and on the right, the Posmusburg form. Look really close. Can you honestly spot any major differences? They've got the same scaly stems, the same way of growing, and even their flowers are incredibly similar. This visual evidence was really the first clue that the classification might be a bit off.
And this is where the detective work really kicks into high gear. To solve this mystery, a botanist named Hagen Dreher decided to go way beyond just a superficial glance. He set up a detailed, side-by-side investigation to collect every bit of evidence he could find.
So Dreher actually cultivated plants from both locations so he could compare them under the same conditions. And he didn't just look at the stems. He actually unearthed them, carefully comparing their root structures, their branching patterns, literally every single part of the plant.
And here it is, the hard data. When Dreher actually measured everything, the differences pretty much vanished. Stem diameter, a 0.5 millimeter difference. The scale length, we're talking a difference of just tenths of a millimeter. The sepals, identical. Hairs at the base of the scales, yep, present in both. The numbers just didn't back up the idea of two separate species. Not at all.
You know, Dreher himself summed it up perfectly with this quote. He said the two species are so similar that it's practically impossible to tell them apart without knowing where they came from.
And in botany, when that's the case, you're almost certainly just looking at local variations of a single species, not two different ones.
So with all the evidence gathered and the case pretty much cracked, it was time to clean up the family tree. And the solution wasn't to create more division, but to bring these plants back together under one much more accurate classification.
So here's the final verdict from Dreher's work. Avonia confusa was officially declared a synonym. It's not a unique species, it's just a slightly different-looking population of Anacampseros lavbleckiana. But then he went even further. He argued that the whole Avonia group should just be considered a section inside the larger Anacampseros genus, which really simplifies the classification for everybody.
And this right here is the real takeaway. It's science in action. Science isn't just a dusty old book of facts. It's a process. Names change, classifications get updated, and our understanding evolves as new evidence comes to light. What was once considered confusing is now completely understood, all thanks to some really careful observation.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? These tiny, incredible survivors were hiding a secret about their identity right there in plain sight. And it kind of leaves us with a question. What other mysteries are out there, perfectly camouflaged in the landscape, just waiting for someone to stop and take a closer look?